listening to the 14th source for all geeky and nerdy news and discussion, which means that you're listening to a podcast.
For all intents and purposes.
I am Dee Bethel.
And I'm Andrew Asplund.
And we are your two overeducated, codependent nerd hosts, bringing you the things that we like to talk about, but filtered through inquisitive and critical lenses in the episode for Friday, April 8th, 2022. Our episode last week was not an April Fool's joke. We are still going and going strong. Strong is maybe a strong word.
Yeah,
but
strong. I mean, let's not oversell.
I mean, strong is relative, especially since March 2020. So, strong is alive. That's all I'm saying. Speaking of alive, we are going to have an episode about this because there's been behind the scenes talk, and things are happening. But I did promise last week, and it happened. I did see The Batman, and I just wanted to say this. This is not. I'm not going to talk about spoilers or anything like that. Andrew and I are notably skeptical about, especially DC movies, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to come out and say it. There were no trailers for this movie that looked appealing to me. It wasn't until the movie came out and people started saying good stuff about it. I'm like, really?
Well, he danced to the Medusae, right? Medusae, I believe, not Medusae. I think that's something
I don't
different.
know. Everything you said right now was you're making an inside joke to a different person.
Oh, you don't know about the Medusae?
No,
that's from the. I think it's the Medusae. It's from the original 1967 movie.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's the Medusae
with Adam West doing his.
Yeah. I'm assuming they had to bring that back, right?
Oh yeah, that's spoilers. That is the key that wins the battle at the end. Just disco starts and the Medusae. The Medusae wins all. Everybody. There's no villains when there's the Medusae. As long as they're not playing, or as long as they're not dancing the Medusae to the Star Wars music. Anyway, the Cantina music, the official name for the Cantina music. Another inside joke. Look it up, dear listeners. But I will say this. Like I said, when I saw those trailers, especially the first major trailer where people are like, "Oh my god, have you seen this trailer? This is exactly." I'm like, it looks like a fucking Batman movie. It's dark, it's gritty, it's punching. This movie rocks. I really liked it. For all the reasons you probably heard, dear listeners. But I will say this, we'll talk about it more because we are planning a get together with our on the ground DC correspondent once the Batman hits HBO Max. Because let's be honest, we are not at the cutting edge of news usually. But I think I liked it because of the sort of the detective angle of it, which they do lean into, and the kind of takeaway I had from it with this, to the point where I had to write it down. Like, this is a superhero movie for true crime fans. So if you have a tendency towards listening to murder podcasts and studying serial killers and watching documentaries, this is a superhero movie for you.
That's quite the sell.
That's what I am. And I'm like, this is amazing. So, yeah. And R-Pat, pretty fun little guy. R-Pat. That's what I call him. We're friends.
Uh-huh. But in other news, this is something we thought is interesting to talk about.
Other R-Pat news?
No. No.
Well.
So, I think I had mentioned at the end of last week's show that, First Contact Day was happening this last week, April 5th,
Congratulations.
2022. And it's so for those who don't know, First Contact Day is kind of like May the 4th, right? It's a day that has become like a marketing day for Star Trek versus Star Wars with May the 4th. That there is no reason for it other than it's a day they picked and it's theirs, right? No one else really announces anything on April 5th. Yeah, it's not like a day for news. So it is kind of like they've historically done a lot of, between April 5th and I forgot September something, which is Star Trek Day, which is basically the anniversary of when the original series first aired. Those are the 2 days they hinge their announcements on. So this April 5th, they did have an announcement. They had an announcement.
Okay.
And not only did they have an announcement on April 5th, they kind of bookended it before and after with something else. And we're going to talk about that something else later.
Yeah.
Because I want to start with the positive.
Can I guess the positive?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I've been real busy with my day job. I haven't actually been watching any TV really lately. Was the announcement that the Next Generation stayed on Netflix? No,
not at all. Yeah. No, it's
balls.
gone. It's gone.
Do you know what's still on Netflix, though? I actually did look. Deep Space Nine is still on Netflix.
That seems like a mistake.
Not for long, I bet. But anyway, so that wasn't the announcement, so I'm going to check out. See you next week, everybody.
Yeah, no, the announcement was despite the fact they're still in the middle of Picard Season 2, they had not a trailer, but kind of a big reveal clip for Star Trek Picard, or Picard Season 3. And this clip is primarily a cast announcement. So for those who don't know, the show Picard stars Patrick Stewart is Picard. It also stars Jerry Ryan as Seven of Nine, and it also stars other people as the other cool characters whose names I can't remember. Brent Spiner as like one of 5 different people, all
no spoilers,
all related to one family.
Right.
Anyway, so they have this cast. Well, they announced new people are joining the cast for season 3, and those people are LeVar Burton, Michael Dorn, Gates McFadden, Jonathan Frakes, Marina Sirtis, and did I leave anyone out? I feel like
I don't think so.
It's basically the original.
Oh,
cast.
Michael! Did you say Michael Dorn?
Michael Dorn, yeah, Michael Dorn. So, and Brent Spiner, but Brent Spiner's already in the show, right?
That's really cool. So they got the Gargoyles cast.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
The cast for Gargoyles.
It's crazy because they're all good actors. It'd be nice to finally see them work together.
So it's interesting because they've said that Picard season 3, which is the last season of the show, they've already made that clear, and they've already filmed it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's already been filmed. That they kind of said that they wanted to end it where it started, right, with kind of this TNG, but it's not a TNG like they're all in it. It's not guest appearances, like they're apparently all part of the cast, but then so is like the original cast is there too. And they've actually said some other people might be in it too. So it's this big thing where they're gonna bring it back around and get all because they talked about when the first season aired, right? They had Brent Spiner, and then they featured Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis in an episode, and then with season 2 they featured Whoopi Goldberg returning as Guinan,
the Time Lord.
And so there's this idea of when are the rest of the cast gonna show up, and they've said they are. So that's interesting. It is an interesting thing to kind of wrap up this show, kind of like I said, bookending it from the first appearance in 1987 to now 30 years later.
Right. I have an asinine question to ask, because when I hear about the show Picard, I can only pull from like my suppositions or my expectations come from what I've seen so far of the show, now no longer on Netflix. And so I obviously go back to that, season 4 episode post the premiere, where it's Picard dealing with his PTSD and he's going back home, and he calls him uncle as a joke, but his nephew, does that kid show up at all? That's all I care about.
Yeah, so continue watching Star Trek.
I want it all. I want it now.
I mean, it's just like you're asking a question that, like, well, had you been watching Star Trek, you'd have more context to answer your own question.
I'm sorry. I'm not you.
Renee, by the way, that's his name.
Yes, true. Yes, you're right.
But yeah, there is this,
cool.
There are these kind of the idea that they're like what was, kind of the legacy of the show. Because one thing Picard season 1 addresses is, this notion of what Picard, who he was at the end of the last movie, Nemesis, and kind of what was important to him, with some new stuff added in of kind of what was important to him, what becomes important to him after Nemesis, which directly ties to, Star Trek 2007's Star Trek film, or 2008. Because, spoiler, one of the guys that worked on it is now in charge of all things Star Trek.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah, surprisingly it's worked out.
Yeah.
But there is this,
Kirkman?
they do tie in, because for those who don't know, that 2007-2008 Star Trek film, it's centered on the idea that in the regular Star Trek universe, something bad happens. and certain people travel back in time and change history, and we have this new universe where things are different, right?
What do they call the new universe?
The Kelvin universe.
The Kelvin universe, right?
And in that pivotal event is the destruction of Romulus,
right?
And so that is part of the timeline of Star Trek now, right?
Okay.
That stuff happens, and Picard, that's part of the season 1. So anyway, that's why now we start with that, and we also deal with the kind of what happens in Nemesis, which is not so related, but something important happens in Nemesis, which we also address in season 1. But then season 2 kind of moves forward with other aspects of this old man, and like what's important to him, and what's that's of course that's where we get season 2 features Q with what he says, with the road not taken,
right?
And
so Paramount Plus is making Star Trek shows that do basically what Cobra Kai is doing, where it's like it's making the movies you don't want to watch or don't want to watch again relevant.
Well, I wouldn't say that, because no one's really excited to watch Nemesis.
Right, but it's still making it relevant. Apparently, that's what I'm saying. Like,
well, yeah, we'll talk about it once you've seen Nemesis.
Oh boy, okay. Check back here in 2025.
But it's more the idea that like that movie ended, and it kind of ended the story of these characters in a weird place.
Okay.
And so now we're picking all that back up, and we're having new stories with new characters. Anyway, so that was announced. That's a big Star Trek news. Is we have Picard season 3 will feature the entire original cast, not Will Wheaton, or at least he's not official. Although Will Wheaton does all the after shows, right? He does the ready room. So, like, it's not like... I think that's a case where he's just content to do what he does.
He's not into... He doesn't really necessarily...
He doesn't really act that much anymore.
He's not interested in acting, even. So.
I'll admit, I think the last parts he's done have all been variations on him just playing himself.
Sure.
Albeit mostly, shittier versions of himself. But, that can be fun.
Was part of the sort of... First Contact Day celebration was part of that celebration. I've heard a bit about this, and I've heard varying responses to what has been shown, but this remaster of the Star Trek the motion picture,
that actually also released. That's another good thing to talk about. A sort of, I don't know what it's. They say, it's the director's cut, but the director's cut had actually come out in like 2001. As a friend of mine said, how did they get Robert Weiss's input for this director's cut? Did they use a Ouija board?
Right.
I think what it is they took basically.
He just keeps asking him for sex.
I think they took what had been done with that 2001 remaster, and they in director's cut, and they tried to remaster it for 4K, redo some of the effects. I'll admit, I watched about 2/3 of it.
Oh, it's out. It's out now.
It's out. It came out on First Contact Day. It's on Paramount Plus. I watched about 2/3 of it.
Still boring.
Man. The director's cut, he just added more. Like, the movie didn't need more, but he gave it to you. Great
it's the best thing that came out. Yeah, it's the best thing that came out of that show, the Star Trek Next Generation theme. Yeah.
The theme. In fact, I think the movie might be better with no video. But it's what's interesting, and I tweeted about this when I was watching it on First Contact Day, is that and actually other people have agreed that some of the shots actually look really bad. Like maybe this is like their rough draft of a 4K remaster. They got to go send it back to the factory. I don't know. It was really strange to have certain shots that looked perfectly fine in the original look like shit. So not sure what to make of it.
Something to be said about models over CG.
Well, and what's weird is it's actually, I'll say this. There's for those that watch it, there's a scene in it where they're like in, I don't know, like the captain's lounge or an observation lounge, and it's Kirk, Spock, and McCoy talking about what they're doing. And I remember when the original remaster came out, they say like, well, this is technically aft facing, so they actually added like a little bit of, they added, you could see the nacelles, right, the warp engine, because they're like, because you'd be able to see that from this object. Okay, cool. And I suspect that they went and like touched up that effect, whatever the background was. Right. But it's like in that process they fucked up the foreground, because there's shots of like the actors. Because one thing I'll say is a lot of the shots of the actors just acting look actually really good. Like they had an original print and they cleaned some stuff up. But some of the ones where they clearly cut in new effects, it's like you output that scene at 320 by 200, or whatever, or like that's the kind of thing where it's like, oh, okay, so it doesn't feel like it's a, like it's not the end of the world, because I think it's only digital right now, so it's something they can fix.
Sure.
Before they press it to Blu-ray or whatever.
Right.
But
right. Streaming is like you said, it's all rough draft.
It's all rough draft
until it hits physical media. But let me ask me. I don't remember much. I have seen the original motion picture, and I think we've talked about it back when we were living together. Aside from like the cognitive dissonance of the next generation, because the next generation theme, even though it wasn't called that yet, it's just when it's in the movie, it's just slow shots revealing the new ship. Right. It's not like cool zoom zoom kind of stuff like it is in the opening credits of Next Generation, right?
Right. There's no zoom zoom.
It's just look at this new ship.
Well, yeah, it's like the five. That's the joke, right? The 5 minute Passover of the Enterprise model. And as people joke, it's they're still. Was it during the 2020 election? It was like, they're still doing a recount in Arizona. Oh, don't worry, we're still watching the fucking scene of the Enterprise from motion picture.
In this 4K remaster. One thing I remember talking to you about, I'll admit I haven't seen your thread while you were watching this. I hope you brought it up. Did they fuck with Disco McCoy?
Oh no, he's still
okay. Good. Thank God.
That's one of the fun things about that movie being made in the late 70s is they're like, hey, what's the fashion sense? Well, clearly everyone's going to dress like it's the 70s,
right?
When they're not in uniform, and so the scene when Commander McCoy is, and what I love it for those who don't know, he's retired. He's left the service, but he gets reactivated by some, little. He even says some little-known reserve activation clause. I was drafted. He says he's really pissed off, but he's got this beard, this beard, this low-cut shirt with a medallion floating on his chest, and you're just like, where the hell did he cut? What did he beam in from Studio 54? I don't know.
Right.
Was he doing key bumps of coke before he came in to serve?
No, he's not in Congress.
Congress.
But the one thing I'd hope they would add was with the power of CGI and the ability to kind of blend old with new is just to kind of create continuity between all the movies. Did they add whales?
No.
Yeah. Well.
But anyway, so there was a lot of there was some stuff for First Contact Day that was kind of neat, kind of interesting, not perfect. Yeah. But there was something else that happened that had been announced before, like a couple days before on Twitter. Okay. And then the further announcement was on the day after, on April 6th. And that is, and it's shocking. It's shocking to say this. Fucking NFTs. Branded Star Trek NFTs.
Of course. DC just announced a bunch of NFTs. It seems like everybody's getting on it way late. All these big corporations are getting on it way late. But Star Trek, really?
Well, and what's now one thing I do really love is that a lot of the fans on Twitter have just, and there's a big Star Trek Twitter, and Star Trek Twitter is weird. Like any Twitter community, it's weird. But but it's a lot of people in their costumes going to conventions and stuff and being excited about Star Trek. I mean, when they did the trailer for Picard season 3, people were like, "Oh my gosh!" Everyone was excited. And then there's this NFT thing. It was just people, just everyone replying saying, "This sounds stupid," or "This sounds awful," or "Wow." Everyone that works on Star Trek suddenly is like, "Well, I made a mistake," and it's just shocking. And and people have commented on Twitter and social media that this whole thing, like literally in Picard is currently in the early 21st century in season 2, and they have a discussion about how, humanity's destroying their planet. There's a notable character who says, "Oh no, I'm leaving this planet because they're killing themselves and they're destroying their world through greed and whatever." And it's like to have that come out, and then within a week or two, the big company says, "Hey, by the way, speaking of greed and destroying the planet, do we have a deal for you?"
Right. Oh man.
And what's wild about it is it's even, I think it's for a game or something. But they even said there's
video games ruining everything.
There's going to be unique NFT ships. Each one is unique. And they show pictures, but none of these look like they're all procedurally generated. It's like you asked a kid to make a Star Trek ship out of 5 model kits, right? You bought them 5 original series model kits and said, just, go crazy, right? Like, oh, here's the ship with 12 nacelles or whatever, like, or, oh, here's where they're on upside down. Like, that's what they're selling. And you're like, what the hell?
I think I've seen some of those ships in Next Generation. They're just kind of add more shit onto a base model.
Well, imagine that, but then because it's too, they're all unique, right? It's just like, all right, how do we just glue extra shit onto the side of this ship? And it's so
Have you ever wanted to own an abomination?
Right? like, oh, poor Captain, what's his name, has got the mighty, the USS 12 nacelle. Like, jeez.
So it's like those old Christmas lights. If one goes out, they all go out. It's really frustrating. Can they get an NFT of a 4K whale?
It is. There's no whales. Yeah, I'm sorry, no whales. So it is really, and it is so uncharacteristic to what it is that they're actually like representing, right? This idea of and of course everyone, First Contact Day. One of the lines in First Contact when Lily Sloan says to Captain Jean-Luc Picard, like, how much did this thing cost? And he says, well, the economics of the future are a little bit different. We don't have money. We're not motivated by greed, right? That being a line everyone references, and here they are, motivated by greed, making garbage that is harmful.
Right.
Everyone's like, wow, I didn't realize that the Star Trek was owned by the Ferengi Trade Commission.
Well, that sucks.
It does. And I mean, who knows what's going to happen? It's the thing is that for every 2 or 3 Star Trek people that like this sounds terrible, there's some crypto bro who thinks he's hot on the new ape farm or whatever the fuck.
It's just getting fleeced out of because someone photoshopped an image. But yeah,
right. So it is. It's too bad. Hopefully they'll. I think the first season 0 sale goes on. Actually, I think on the 9th, the day after this episode premieres.
Let's bleep that date out so we don't encourage anybody.
Oh no, don't buy it. Like I would say, I encourage going to look at what a shit show looks at. But don't buy anything.
The thing is, it puts an interesting perspective because I feel like in the last couple of months, after what feels like just nothing about NFTs, seeing. Big corporations finally, all the math has worked out. And they're like, oh, it seems like a safe time to get in when no one actually cares. But I think NFTs have kind of settled into this, like, they're not the next hot thing, but they are an income. They're like this weird sort of income generator on the side for a very specific group of people. And like, that's kind of, I feel like it's kind of settled. Well, and that's where it's not going to go away, but it's like, it's not the hotness that everybody was saying it was. There's going to be this weird side economy that you can dabble in at this point. Everybody knows it sucks, but there's always going to be those apologists out there, and it's just going to persist. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say like, well, we can live with that. I still think we should annihilate them, but
I guess that's weird. Is that so many people now understand that really at the end of the day, it's all just like
it's nothing.
It's a pyramid scheme, like it is just. It's like it's a transparent grift. That like at this point the only people that are still falling for it are the people that have fallen for it is what it feels like.
Right. Yeah, there's like Avon is still around, but
right. I guess that's the thing, right? There's a lot of this multi-level marketing that it does still exist, but at least the Avon people get like supplies, right?
Avon is probably selling NFTs at this point too. And you know what? Because I hate NFTs so much, the episode title will not be Avon NFTs. Yeah. As much as I want it to be.
So it's a weird place, but hopefully that'll pass. The other thing that I will say is, before April 5th, kind of going back to the upbeat stuff, they'd released little clips of all the characters for Star Trek Strange New Worlds,
and it looks dope.
Which premieres on May 5th. Which really like and one thing I really am excited about is Discovery season 4 just ended. Picard's on season 2. We know season 3 is coming. We know Lower Deck season 3 is coming. We know Prodigy is going to return. Strange New Worlds, but the idea that they're all different. They're all focusing their stories in different ways.
Right.
And they're all like tight. Right. There's 6 to 10 episodes generally, so it's not like
pretty good. Yeah.
But I'll say, seeing the Strange New World stuff, it's just so like I'm excited, for a new show with new characters, some returning characters, Captain Pike and Spock and number one, whose name they've actually, this is my favorite part about this, by the way, for those that don't know, number one from the original pilot, The Cage, played by Majel Barrett, she never had a name. She was only called number one. And in Discovery season 2, they give her a first name. It's like it's not Uva, it's Una. Okay, that's fine. It's a name, but then I think they've now given her a last name, and it's like to the point where like, oh, not. I don't know what the last name is, but it's like this is not at all what I expected.
Right. Strange New World season 2. They give her a middle name.
They'll give her a middle name. Well, actually, the one thing I'm hoping for is they've already revealed that the characters, right? They have number one, and they also have Nurse Chapel. And I'm really excited for the scene where someone mistakes them for one another. Right,
right, because they're played by
they're played by Majel Barrett. Yeah,
yeah.
I just want to see that thing where it's like even though the actresses that are playing the two characters don't look alike. I just want that scene where someone like, are you guys related or something? Yeah, no, it looks great. For those that are interested in Star Trek, it should be mostly I think. Although there are there's technically a prequel show of Discovery season 2, but I don't think it's like I don't think you're going to be missing. There's not like spoilers, and there's not like anything too. I know there is actually there is one thing that will be a little bit of a spoiler is that they've already shown in the trailer that Captain Pike is dealing with something that happened at the end of Star Trek Discovery season 2, which is he knows about his future. And for those who don't know. In Star Trek, the original series, he's revealed to have suffered a terrible accident where he's debilitated and left in what we fondly call the beep beep chair, right?
Beep beep, yeah.
And that was introduced in the 2-part episode, The Menagerie. So the idea is that in Discovery, the character learns that that's going to happen to him.
Right.
He sees himself in the beep beep chair, but now they said this is like his thing where he has to deal with.
Right.
So but either way, I think it's a new group of characters. It looks exciting. It's going to be kind of an explore kind of show, not like a big drama.
Yeah, episodic show, right?
Episodic. That's what they've been kind of describing.
Right.
So,
or if it's episodic, maybe like light continuity.
There's going to be, I think, some character stories because there are actually some things people have already pointed out, like, well, how does this, sure,
right? But it's not like the show is a 10-part movie,
right? None of that.
That sounds awesome. That, as well as TNG, is making me think I might sign up for Paramount Plus tomorrow.
I mean, it is shocking to me that Paramount Plus back when it was CBS All Access, I was like, what a sack of shit.
You were very down on it.
Yeah, I do not want this. And now here I'm like, actually, it's pretty good.
Right. Well, now they're like, hey, how about we're just a Star Trek channel? And you're like, okay.
Well, the thing is, it is just a Star Trek channel, which really at this point, with all the Star Trek, is probably enough for me. But there's other stuff too, right? Like I talked about watching, I saw Scream. And there's some other things I've watched.
The Pacifier? No, is it?
The Equalizer TV show.
That too.
I watched MacGyver before it was canceled. So there is actually a lot there. I gotta say, although I know there's people outside of the United States, there's a lot of frustration because it's not everywhere and they don't have a good distribution for it.
Right.
But
yeah. I don't think this is. I think this came out before First Contact Day. And it's not really part of the franchise that you enjoy, but there was a funny story that came around where Paramount, or I think it must have been Paramount, but like they announced we're making a new Star Trek movie with the cast from the rebooted Star Trek series, and then everybody that was on the cast of the Star Trek movie was like, "What? Did you hear that?" So like, there's a big announcement
like a year ago or something.
No, this is like. This is
6 months ago?
Like a month or two ago. They're like, yeah, we're making this, or maybe 3 months ago.
It may have been back in September.
But it was like, we're making a new movie. And then like, I started seeing articles going like, the Star Trek cast is like, what are you talking about? I haven't been contacted about a new movie at all. And in the press release for the movie, it's like, yeah, everybody's on board. Everybody's come back. And it's like, okay. Yeah, like, we love everybody. Like, it'd be great, but like, they should have gotten a hold of us before they did this.
Well, I think some of the actors have already because I know I was reading, I think it was Chris Pine was saying something about how he's like, he's got feelings about what a Star Trek movie should be.
Right.
And they're actually, it sounds like he's got a good thought on it, but it's like, it doesn't sound like what Paramount's trying to do,
Right.
So who knows,
So yeah, Star Trek's everywhere, every table, every chair. And we're here to talk about it. Welcome to a Star Trek show for all intents and purposes. So if you, dear listeners, have any thoughts about the topics we discussed this week, feel free to leave your thoughts as comments on the page for this episode at forallintense.net.
You can also post your comments or engage in conversations with other listeners on our Facebook page.
You can also find us on other social media, such as Twitter, where you can find us at our respective handles. Andrew can be found tweeting about Star Trek and tabletop role-playing games at Profound Dark. You can find me retweeting other people at dbethel. You can also find us on Instagram, where you can find Andrew at Profound Brick, and you find me and my work at dbethel Comics.
While you're at our website, you can go to the link in the corner that says YouTube, where you'll find our YouTube channel. Oof, that was a weird way to get there, Andrew. But yeah, our YouTube page, YouTube channel, where we actually do have this show now appears every week.
You might be listening to us say this right now on the YouTube.
That would be weird, where we're like, oh, let's do this on YouTube, and like, but I'm already here. But yeah.
Right. So for you guys, listen to us on other places if you want. Yeah. I don't know. We use 2 tracks of music for our show. One is called Disco Medusae, the other is called District 4. They're both written and performed by Kevin McLeod of the Clan McLeod, immortal swordsman, graph paper enthusiast, and musician extraordinaire.
You can find his music at incompetech.filmmusic.io, and that's all licensed under the Creative Commons 4.0 attribution license. Although I will say, I heard a rumor he might be experimenting with NFTs as well.
Oh, no. God, I guess I have to write some music for our show.
I know. I mean, it's just... I get it. Yeah, everyone wants to make a buck.
Why did their theme song just change to Cthulhu Clock from 2015? If you like the show and like to help us out, the best way to do so would be to subscribe to the show using whichever podcasting service you happen to use. What would help us out even more, though, would be to go to their storefront and leaving some sort of review, whether a text review or or using their proprietary metric will help spread the word to new potential listeners through the magic of algorithms. Do you mind if I put on a comic book maker hat for a real quick second?
Yeah, if that works for you.
Next week, because this will be the last time we release an episode before this happens, but on Thursday, April 14th, is that next Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I checked my calendar real quick. Next Thursday, from 6 to 9 p.m., CrockerCon is returning in Sacramento. The quote unquote Comic-Con that happens at the Crocker Art Museum is coming back, and I'm very excited. Admittedly, a little nervous, but that's just the world we live in. But if you are on the fence about it, they are requiring everybody to prove vaccination status or recent testing status, and all the exhibitors have had to provide such proof as well, which makes me a little bit more comfortable. But yeah, it's going to be weird because it's a show in a COVID world, but it's a show I love. It's my favorite show I do, and a lot of all the major local Sacramento, I don't know, not major and minor local Sacramento talent will be there. And for me, obviously, I like the environment because it's high art meeting pop art, where we can talk about classical painting, we can talk about comic books all in one go. And it's just, for me, as a person that doesn't go outside, in a community of other people that don't like to go outside, it's really nice to see friends I literally haven't seen in 2 years. So CrockerCon at the Crocker Art Museum in Sacramento, California, 6 to 9 p.m., Thursday, April 14th. If you are willing to go out, I would love to see you there. Come by and say hi. Buy some books.
Will any friends of the show be there?
You must be referring to, of course, Taylor. No,
Yes,
although, you know what? I feel like if I put a Taylor signal into the sky, he would just show up. But no, yeah, Tyron. But yes, Kyron Silva of Taurus Comics will be there as well, and exhibiting his wares. He's got a Kickstarter going right now for his book Star Core. I guess I feel like I should mention that we don't usually do plugs for Kickstarters or other stuff, except for stuff that the hosts might be throwing. But I should point it out, and in full disclosure, that one of the rewards of his Kickstarter is a variant cover drawn by yours truly.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, check out his Kickstarter if you'd like. It should still be going at the time of this release, and it's good times. It's cool to see him filling out his world, but he will be there. You can come to the show and talk to him as well, and it'll be cool to see him and everybody else. I'm very excited. But it's that weird thing. It's that post-COVID world. I'm like, can I be excited? to be around people because I'm scared. Also to be around
Oh
people.
no, I
in its own
understand.
way, you know?
I will tell you, just to make you feel better. A week or two ago, I got a notification from the Washington State through my phone that I'd been exposed to someone who had COVID. I'd been, because we have the little phone app that if
Right.
you're close enough to someone. And I was like, oh shit! And I was at work, and I get the experience. I'm like, oh no! And I start coughing. I feel like I'm heating up. I got a fever, and I put my mask on. I sit at my desk at work for like 5 minutes. I'm like, I gotta go home. So I went home. I got one of the rapid tests out, and I took it. It had been a week since of this alleged exposure, and I was negative. Right, I was negative. And then as soon as I got the negative test, I stopped coughing. I stopped. My runny nose stopped. My fever. I stopped. I didn't feel as hot anymore. So it is interesting that it can just the idea that like things it is still there's stress to it. So I get you're stressed out, but hey, it should be good.
It should be good. I'll be masked up, and even despite being fully vaxxed and boosted and all that stuff, it's just better safe than sorry, right?
Right.
But it's nice to know that other people that I know, their brain is their own worst enemy.
Yeah.
And so until you conquer your own worst enemy, dear listeners, which is your brain, most likely.
Or the Joker.
Or the Joker. Or the Riddler. As is the case with the Batman. I'm D. Bethel.
And I'm Andrew Asplund.
And for all intents and purposes,
that was a podcast.
I think this episode's going to be called Disco McCoy. That seems appropriate.
God, not only does he look great, he comes in fucking angry as shit that like, right. Why am I even back here? What the fuck is going on? I was with 3 hookers in a case of blow,
Right. He's got that one long pinky finger, yeah, and like he shows up. He shows up on the the teleportation pod, and like this cloud is emitting from his fingernail. He's like, "Fuck!" Then just see him rubbing his finger all over his teeth.
Stop recording.
I like this narrative we're doing. Is this fan fiction or is this?
I think it's kind of slash fiction at this point.
It was not. So when you play Brain Age, you're just listing inventory.
What? Glasses. Yeah, no, that's true. It's just. But I got nose pads. That's cool.
That's cool. Now you can look you can look pain-free at the painful world around you.
No, they didn't hurt that much.
Wow, buddy. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I ruined the flow.